Hi guys, in case you hadn't guessed already, in this video I'm going to be building this Avro Vulcan from Trumpeter. This is a 1:144 scale kit and it was released earlier this year in March. Being such a small scale kit, it only has about 60 pieces, so it's quite a quick and easy build. And actually I've just noticed the box art is slightly misleading in that it shows the Vulcan with the bomb bay open, but there is no option to have the bomb bay open in this kit. A little bit sneaky there of Trumpeter. Inside the box, the first sprue is the upper airframe and also of course the tail sections. The second large sprue has the lower half of the airframe and the engine air intakes, and also the options for the bomb bay. And finally a small sprue for the details, mainly the wheels. And a tiny clear part sprue with the cockpit glass. There are two colour schemes in the kit. There's this camouflage top and bottom wraparound. And then there's the camouflage on top with the white anti-flash on the underside. You might have to do a little bit of research for the colours because the only colours that are pointed out in some brands like Tamiya are the white and the burnt iron colours. Bizarrely, it doesn't even make any recommendations for black for Tamiya. The instructions are fairly straightforward and easy to follow, starting with the cockpit and the air intakes. Moving on to the tail, and then the delta wing goes together in two parts. So it's fairly straightforward to follow. So moving on to the build, I started with the air intakes. One thing I noticed when building these is that the Trumpeter plastic is really soft and it's easy to end up with gaps when putting pieces together. This is a particular problem with these air intakes because if you fill the gaps you can't sand them from the inside. And this soft plastic problem is exacerbated a little bit by the overlapping sprue gates. You have to be careful when removing them to make sure that you don't remove too much plastic. The kit includes the blue steel nuclear missile, which you can fit to the underside of the aircraft. And you do that using this bottom panel here where the missile sits in nicely into that recess. Alternatively, you can use the closed bomb bay panel here instead. There's no option to have the bomb bay doors open despite what the box art shows you. The instructions show the blue steel missile for both of the paint options, but my understanding is that it should only be used on the paint scheme with the white underside, which is XL361. Moving on to the cockpit. The detail is minimal, as you might expect at this scale. But remember also that the cockpit glass of the Vulcan is largely painted over. There are only very small sections which are clear, so you won't be able to see anything inside. With the air intakes and the cockpit done, they attach to the lower and the upper sides of the aircraft respectively. And then the top and the bottom sections go together. The fit here is quite good thanks to a couple of locating pins and the way that the lower wing sits partially inside the upper wing. Equally, the tail goes together well, and it has some really sturdy locator pins to help it go into place and to keep it perpendicular. And you can see here, once those steps are complete, the aircraft is more or less complete. There are a few bits of filling and minor sanding that need doing, but in general the majority of the aircraft is finished at this point. There are a few intakes and similar pieces that go on the underside. The instructions are not very clear about the orientation of these, and in fact I've got them the wrong way around here. I only realised that after looking at the paint scheme sheet because the instructions themselves are really not clear. To paint the main camo scheme, I gave the aircraft a code of XF82. I know that might not be quite the right shade, but I think it's close enough. And then I spent quite a few hours cutting out the camo pattern from Tamiya masking sheets. At one point I almost gave up and decided to go for the white underside, but in the end I stuck with it. I think Tamiya masking paper works better than using blue tack or silly putty or whatever for the camo lines. It helps you get a much straighter edge, especially at this scale. And you can see here the results after putting the RAF dark green down on top. And that's starting to look like a Vulcan now. That looks really nice. There's a surprising number of stencil decals. And to be honest, this was the most difficult part of the kit for me. I found the decals to be quite finicky and quite inconsistent. Some of these I found that after even just 2 seconds in water, they floated away from the backing paper or they shriveled up. Other ones needed much longer in the water to actually apply properly. So my advice for these would be to be very careful. There were also a couple of mistakes on the decal sheet, such as calling out 3 lots of decal 45 when there were only 2 on the sheet. Luckily that's only a small stencil, so missing one off is not a big deal. So the landing gear are one of the more complicated sub-assemblies of the kit, but they go together well and they fit into the wheelbase nicely, and as long as you remember to put some nose weight in, you shouldn't have a problem. I gave the engine nozzles a coat of metallic grey and then a thin coat of clear blue. And then finally the cockpit glass, most of which is painted over. The fit of the glass wasn't brilliant and there was still a gap at the end despite some sanding. Okay, and let's look at the final result. So guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Overall, what do I think of this kit? Well, it was fun to build it, and if you want a Vulcan, then you don't really have many options. There is a version in this scale from GWH, Great Wall Hobby, and Airfix also do a much older kit in 1/72 scale. I feel like it's gone together nicely and it looks okay, but to be honest I was a little bit underwhelmed by the kit. Trumpeter's instructions are not brilliant, the decals were definitely the worst part of the kit by far, and I am by no means a Vulcan expert, but I've read online that there are certain inaccuracies with this kit where it incorporates features of older Vulcans and the newer versions all in the one kit. So if you are somebody who's really concerned with 100% accuracy, or you're trying to model a particular aircraft, you might want to do a little bit more research first before deciding whether or not this kit can actually build the model you want to build. Having said that, I really like the look of the grey and green wraparound camouflage, and I think this is going to look good on the shelf. So guys, as always, thank you for watching. My next video is going to be a scratch built project which I've been working on for a few months now, and you'll be able to see a couple of previews of that during the week in the community tab of my YouTube channel. So I will hope to see you then. Thanks for watching.